Alright, so what is an array and how are for loops used with arrays? An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. If you have a list of items, storing them in a single variable may make sense. For example, here's a variable family members, and we've got a list of family members: Chris, Gretchen, Caleb, and Rossi. Now, you don't have to put them all in one line. You can hit enter between them because, again, JavaScript ignores white space, so you can make it look like this if that's a little more visually appealing. The first element in an array is at index 0. So if I set a new variable name equal to family member with the value at index 0, we would get Chris. Okay. If I just say family members and I don't say what index, we're going to get everybody in the array. If I want to change one of the items in my array, I can say family members, the first item, is now going to be assigned the value of Kosi, and it changes Chris to Kosi in the array. The safest way to loop through an array is using a for loop. Loops can execute a block of code a number of times. So if you don't use the for loop, you have these 4 lines of code. If you do, you only have these 4 lines of code. You might say, the 4 lines of code out of the way. Well, that's because my array only had 4 items in it. Imagine an array that has hundreds of items, and you have to keep writing all of them on a new line. So that's where things it's significantly better to use the for loop when you've got these longer arrays. Okay, so how does the for loop work? So we say for, statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, and then the block of code to be executed. Statement 1 is executed one time before the code block, before this stuff in here. Normally used to initialize the variable in the loop, but you don't have to include that. You could just leave it blank and then put the semicolon if you initialize it before the for loop, like if you say what the variable is up here above the for loop. Statement 2 defines the condition for executing the block. It's often used to execute the condition of the initial variable. If you omit statement 2, you must provide a break inside the loop or your loop will never end and your browser will crash. So you can't omit that one. Statement 3 is executed every time after the code block. So at the end of the code block, it does statement 3. It's usually used to increment, but it can be used to decrement or even omit and then increment the value inside the loop. So here's an example where we omit the first and the third statements, okay, because the first is included above and the third is included after the rest of the code block here. Okay. All right. So before we get to the assignment, we'll look at our little. There we go. So you can kind of look here. They're all done. All right, but you can kind of look through this code. You can press pause if you want and see how things are done. So here all of them are there, the arrays and for loops. You could just format it as a list, which gets a little bit more complicated. You can look at how that's done using the list down here, and you have to put your list items. And don't forget to end your list when you're done. And then you can also look at the last one. Again, the first statement and last statement are now before the for loop and then after the code block.